Grand Rising Light Force. My name is Stefan Rao, more commonly known as Tank, and welcome to Speak Pro Radio. We are here today to do our very best to introduce to you what it means to be part of the Life Force movement. In case you're not familiar, Life Force is a movement that is made up of like-minded people who are dedicated to changing the world. And I'm here today with someone else who I can't introduce until she has confirmed all the technicalities. So in the meantime, we're going to talk about some amazing, amazing things today because yesterday on the World Situation Report, it was probably the most monumental breakthrough report that we've ever heard. And we're all about finding ways to connect with God, connect with each other, and find ways, solutions to the problems that have basically addressed the world so that we can create a better world together. So that being said, Laura, are you ready? You got your game face on? You ready to go?
Hello, Mr. Ra. How are you?
I'm very good.
That's good.
So pretty exciting. Yesterday, the World Situation Report with Kim Gogan on UnitedNetwork.Earth. Holy moly. This is,
yeah.
I mean, really a mind-blowing report. So where do you want to start with this? Because you were going through it section by section, right? Because, we listen to these things and anything that's beneficial to us. And, we had a big meditation last night, actually, because we were actually working with some other people and really just doing our very best constantly to assist this process energetically, right? Whatever that means, that contribution that we can make. And we recommend that you do the same, that because we're in a state in history where you are going to want to know that you were part of it, right? And as new information comes out and a lot of these incredible energetic blocks that have harnessed our energy, that have harvested our energy, this is a real situation that's we're all affected by. Everybody who hears this is affected by this, whether you know it or not. So we are going to talk a little bit about what that means, right? And we did talk about it last time. We were talking about the MK Ultra situation because a lot of people look at MK Ultra as this conspiracy theory, this mind control CIA program, which it in fact is, but it's been much more than that, right? And Kim Gogan took it to a different level yesterday.
Yeah. And I think that's the one thing that I've noticed that people are always talking to me about, be careful about this person being MK Ultra or whatever. And I always think to myself, wait, we're all MK Ultra in some way, some shape or form. So I think that's it was actually good to hear that and going, oh, well, this is how they do it. So it was very exciting to hear how she broke it down.
So where do you want to start in that breakdown? Because I feel like you were analyzing it and talking to me about it earlier, and I feel like you're right on. So, Go ahead.
Well, my thing is the way she spoke about how our brain is wired. And I was hearing this and how she explained it. And she did show a video as well that we'll post it on the chat. I'm pretty sure her name is Therapy in a Nutshell. I think I'm saying it correctly. So we'll post it on chat. But she explains how the brain works when it is, what did she talk about traumas? That's it. She spoke about traumas and how it affects us and how it will impact us in what we do, our relationships and things like that, and how our brain changes. And it just breaks it all down. I thought that was really important. But what I found that was so important was why she broke it down, because she wanted to talk about alternating current. So can you just explain what she said and why and how it affects us? That just hooked me in. What about you?
I gotta be honest. It was one of those things where you're talking about it and it's all a bunch of terms you're familiar with, right? So to start off, she talks about the reptilian brain, right? So the reptilian cortex in the brain. Now the reptilian cortex kind of sits in between the two hemispheres of the brain, from what I understand, and it regulates activity, right? And usually what they would say is if you're right brain, you're more creative, and if you're left brain, you're more logical, or vice versa. I'm not really sure. But the point is that which one of these do you feed? Which one are you more prone to give your energy to? And she talked about the fight or flight response introduced from trauma, right? So this could be any trauma, any all types of different ways you can measure trauma, right? This could be abuse from when you were younger, it could be a car accident from when you were younger, or it could just be a consistent state of your existence for working very hard to pay bills, or worrying about if you're going to be able to have kids, or worry about if someone's going to die, worrying about your own kids that are at school or away at camp, right? These things are they create a consistent state of fight or flight, right? Now, fight or flight is supposed to be when you have to either fight or run away, right? Like a bear comes out from behind a tree and takes a swipe at you. In that moment, do you fight? The answer is probably no, right? Or do you run, right? You probably run. And this gives you that energy to run. Kim referenced a very famous thing of a baby, a car runs over a baby, and the mother suddenly has superhuman strength and picks up the car off of her baby, right? That's the adrenaline rushing in that fight or flight moment. So that this mother has near superpowers, right? In fight or flight and love combined, basically makes us superhuman, right? So Kim breaks this down in a way that disagrees with science, um, and I can't go into all the ins and outs exactly, but I think I got the gist, right? So what she said was this: we've all had this energy, like life force energy, right? Little plug, a little life force energy, and it would be disrupted and regulated by the reptilian cortex in the middle. So if you were feeling a certain kind of way and you're producing, a lot of results and you're getting too creative, the reptilian cortex would come in and it would drown that energy with dark energy, right? So it's an alternating current. So as you're producing light energy that comes in to drown it with dark energy, and now you're added with fear and anxiety and stress, right? You have goals to achieve, and you're talking about trying to achieve certain goals, and then they get drowned out with fear and like anxiety. How am I going to do this? What if I fail? All these things, and how many of us are guilty of that, right?
Yeah.
Everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to talk about this a little bit. Talk about what that feels like for anybody, because anxiety is not just like a lot of people have anxious moments, let's say, right? We have anxious moments, we feel anxiety, but anxiety can be a crippling condition, right? A real state of existence. Talk about what that is like. Explain to people, what does it look like when people go through anxiety? Because I went through this at Christmas time. I went through my first time in my life. I had a real anxiety attack, I guess. I mean, it was like an anxiety 5 days for me, right? I never had it happen to me before. I never felt this before in my life. And it was immobilizing and over nothing. There was absolutely nothing wrong, right? So I'm now much more concerned and, not concerned, but aware of anxiety. And because Kim talked about ways to deal with this, I think it's important to let's talk about what that means.
So for me, there's a few things that help me. It is something that I have, conquered, and I'm always conquering conquering it. Um, because it's one of these things that it can come up at any time, or you'll get triggered or whatever it is. It could literally be just coming on a show, and then someone turning around and saying to you, hey, you're just talking to me. That can just calm you down. Or it could be something like, for example, I'll touch a certain place in my body to anchor me, and I know that's center. When I'm feeling that way, I can't breathe sometimes, or I can't think. Like my brain is just on this mode that I don't know what to do, and I have to literally say to myself, it is an illusion. Just breathe. And I have my moments, and it's one of these things you'll learn to overcome it as time goes on. And then before, maybe it took you an hour to get out of it, but this time it's taking you 2 minutes because you're just breathing and you're going to be okay. So one of the things that she did explain, she explained how she was healing, and we can talk a little bit more on how I do it and how we do it as well, because it's not just with anxiety, it's with a lot of things. When you don't have, a trauma doesn't just come with, something that's happened now. And Kim did confirm this as well, that it's also past life. And I think that's really important too, that maybe it's not something that you have to heal now. It's something that happened in a past life that's coming up now. And when she spoke how that happens, I thought that makes sense now. It makes sense that out of nowhere, suddenly I'm feeling X because it's coming through that way and I could feel it. And now I can understand and go, okay, how can I heal it? I've got the tools now, put it together. So
okay, let's isolate what you just said, because you kind of use broad terms, but let's talk specifics, right? For example, some people have a phobia of heights, right? An extreme fear of heights.
Yep.
And this can happen when you get up in a place where you're perfectly safe, right? You're standing on a tall building, you're indoors, the building's anchored, there's a window in front of you, all types of reasons. But just looking out the window at how high you are causes this incredible sense of fear and anxiety, which I'm sure, most people have experienced to one extent or another, right? And it doesn't mean that that you have a natural, let's say, natural fear of heights, but from one life to the next, the one thing that would be brought over, and I guess through the reptilian cortex, would be our fears. So even though we would have our memories wiped from previous lifetimes, previous experience, all the lessons and wisdom that we learned in that lifetime, all of that would be, all those experiences would be wiped out. The fear and anxiety would be brought over, right? Because why? Because that would make it easier to control people, right? Go ahead.
yeah. And what I noticed was because of my experience and how my memories were wiped, like that I lost my memory. At the end of the day, I look at this and go, I get triggered and I don't know where it's coming from. So now I'm able to go, oh, like I always knew this, but I can, when you kind of have someone that can explain it to you in a way that I did not understand it, but just hearing the way she put it, I was like, wait, that makes sense to me. Because I used to always say to people, I would be triggered about something that I didn't even know why, but it was because my body, my cells have memory. And so it was reacting.
Well, what a great thing to bring up. And because you brought it up live on air, why don't you explain that?
What part?
The part that nobody knows about you who doesn't know you, which is your memory was wiped. You don't get to just drop that and be like you don't just walk into the party and be like, well, because I can fly, and then just walk away. Right? Like you got to wait. You can fly? Like when did you fly? How did this happen? Explain it to us, because that's intriguing. That's fascinating television. That's amazing. Oh my God, you can fly. So the fact that you just dropped in a passive conversation, hey, because my memory was wiped. No biggie, right?
Well,
At least give some background.
Okay, so I've already explained my story before, but we can, it's on the network, and then everyone can go and see it there once it's up and running. However, back in 2015, I walked into this body. I really cannot explain exactly what happened to me, because at this point, I'm still remembering things that recently, with all these amazing upgrades that, actually, I shouldn't be saying upgrades. I should be saying all the amazing things that Light Warriors and Kim and beings from, off this planet have been assisting us in this transition, have allowed us to remember why we came, and we're still going to be remembering more things, but it has allowed us to start remembering that. So I'm starting to pick up things that I'm like, why didn't you tell me this before? Granted, in their defense, I would have panicked and been like, I don't want to do this, I don't care, I'm walking away, and so on, because I would have just been like, no. However, you've been getting things, and other people that we've been speaking to have been also feeling like they remembered. But with me, what I struggled with was I came into this body and this body had a lot of trauma. As time went on, I wouldn't understand it, but she was writing an autobiography. So prior to this happening, there was an autobiography book being written. So I was able to then go back to it and go, that made sense. Or I would ask my parents because I would say, this is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm experiencing. My body would be doing certain things. It could be a trigger that it was a gentleman that would remind me of something, and I would be walking and I would get triggered. And that person, no matter what, I just couldn't be around. Or it could be a word, it could be a smell, it could be a place, it could be anything, never been there before. And then my parents would explain why I was going into this, I need to get out of here, because my body was shutting down, because my cells had memory. The shaman that I spoke to was like, you have to remember this. You may not have the memory, but this is not going to be, you got a new soul. This is going to be easy. If anything, this is going to be a little bit more harder for you, because you need to grow at a rapid pace. You need to act as if you are an adult, but yet sometimes you can have this innocence, childlike in you that will come out and people will not understand it. And then for me was that I couldn't understand why things were happening. For example, ovaries. For example, I fractured my rib, and I was like, why am I fracturing my rib like the first time, but the second time? There's a reason for this. And then I had to heal the cells in my body because they were getting triggered, and somehow, because I didn't actually release it and heal it and go through the process, even though it wasn't mine, it was, the cell had memories, and people would know that if just do a little bit of research. But that's what happened with me, and knowing that this is connected to the reptilian cortex and how she explained it, it made sense. And then she also spoke about how, one of the questions she says, is it possible for the memories, miasmas, and engrams to exist from past lives? And she said that it is possible. And I was like, yes, because that's what I see with a lot of people, that it's not just this lifetime, it's also past. And it could be generational as well. So there's a few things with it too, and you've got to see what resonates with you. Does that answer your question, or did I ramble on?
You covered 9 different shows just now, but what you said was really valuable.
Summed it up. Like, you asked me to sum it up.
Okay, let's go back and sum that up a little more. A little bit. We're going to talk about it a little bit, okay? Just a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, so you're talking about a different kind of experience than the most people are used to, right? It was described to you by someone we trust, right? That there was a call to kind of bring other beings into this earth, right? That we were needed, that there was other beings that needed to be called in, right? We'll just say it that way. So let's just say it that way. Now, the previous, you're frozen.
So are you. We froze.
Nailed it.
You're frozen. I'm frozen.
It must be the taboo topic.
My black.
I'm not sure. I don't know if we're still live, if anyone's watching, as I'm staring at the screen. But okay, what happened?
I don't know. Did you get booted off too?
I can see myself here. My internet's still working. It says I'm still live. I'm live? Okay, so I'm going to keep talking about this and act like nothing just happened. Okay. All right. Okay, so now I will. Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you, Leela. What I need to know is if we're live on YouTube, but that's okay. So I'll talk about this. Basically, Laura had a specific experience, right? Where she was placed into a body and everything that was previously known in that body was erased. In fact, she had injuries when she went to have this experience. It wasn't the intention to do that. She had injuries. She had her ribs were fractured. Her finger was broken. She had some other things going on, and all of those things were healed instantaneously. Instantaneously healed, and she kind of came in as a brand new person with no memory of who she was before, right? And there's more to that. I'm way over simplifying it. So when she's talking about this, right? She's talking about the cells in the body she currently occupies. Yeah, got it. Thanks. I got people whispering at me all over. I figured it out. We're live. Got it. Thanks. So basically, what happened is, so now she was in this body and she will get triggered by certain things, people that remind her of, she had some abusive experiences in the previous life before she was who she is now. And she would see certain people that would completely send her into a panic attack or, you know, an anxiety attack. And she would have certain issues where she had to leave certain places, right? And this would cause incredible anxiety. So it wasn't like she got to escape having the experience that all the rest of us have, right? It's the exact same. As a matter of fact, Kim was talking about it from one life to a next, right? Like basically talking about, because what would happen is the progenitors, the light progenitors, however many thousands or millions of years ago, they used to create light souls, new light souls, were basically infected with a virus and destroyed. This was however long ago. Now, after that happened, you had a limited number of light souls here on this planet. So we would reincarnate over and over again, because they needed our light energy to create anything, because light is creation, right? Light is life. It's what makes it possible to live. Now, that was the biggest mic drop, in my opinion, that I heard in the past 3 years from Kim, because that explains everything, the motivation behind the deep state and the order and the hierarchy above them, who thought that what they were doing was justifiable, that they could do whatever they wanted, right? Because we all want to believe that there's a hierarchy that is good and righteous, that's God, right? God the way we know him to be. So hearing that there was this evil empire that lorded over everything, and this is how they justified it, right? That they had to maintain the order of the light and control us in this way, and that these light souls would be regenerated. And each time we'd have our whole memory erased, and then we'd come back down and reincarnate into a body again. And we'd live another life from zero. But if we were allowed to live out as the light beings that we are, we would have gained and gathered all this wisdom over time. We would have continued to grow and progress over time. And we would be much further along in our spiritual maturity than what we are now. But as it sits, we have this very limited view of what we are. We have this lifetime that we get to learn things. And as we get to a certain point, the way they designed it was so that we would get to a certain point in life where we would have wisdom, but we wouldn't have the physical faculties, you know, the mental faculties to function in a way that would allow us to thrive. So as we gain wisdom, we lose life force, right? And then we die. And it was designed that way so that we could be a battery for their system and power their evil empire and everything else that they wanted to do. Now that's the reality. That's a nutshell of like, okay, here's everything that's ever happened, right? So now think about this from where we're at right now. The idea that, well, you know, what Laura went through. So she comes into a body fresh. She has this anxiety that is the same that every human being has suffered through, but the difference is like her life, her previous life was in the same body that everyone could see. Most of us. No? Okay. I thought you wanted to chime in. You were just doing things to distract me while I was live? Got it. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
Can we move along?
Thank
We
you.
don't have to talk about
You're killing it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. So.
just language, Mr. Rao.
Love you.
Seriously.
Love
Hands
you.
were
Okay.
clear.
I'm just playing. So, anyways, so having this experience, right, where it's like she's living in the same body with memories of with these cellular
Well,
memories of things from the
that's
same
right.
body, right?
That's right. I had cellular, like, so my cells had memories, so it would get triggered, and I was like, I didn't know how to heal it because I don't have the memory, so I would have to kind of go another way to heal it. Because I'm like, no, you, I don't care if I can't get there. What I will do is I will heal it, and the only way that they could, help me with healing it was by me going through it. So then I started experiencing things as if it was now I can say, well, now I got a trauma for these reasons, or blah, 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 blah. Which then I would go down, down, down with the healing, like I was just healing, removing the onions. What they say is removing the onions. That's what I was doing. And
No
then,
one does anyone say removing the onions? Does
oh
anyone say that?
Jesus,
No.
okay, what? You
You
know
mean
the
through the layers of
hell.
the onion, down to the layers of the onion? Is that what you mean?
Really? Really? You could help a little bit if you know I'm saying it wrong. Help me out.
I'm helping you. So going down the rabbit hole or cutting through the layers of the onion is I think what you're trying to say. Yes. Got it.
Okay.
Carry on. Carry on.
Okay.
So as you went down through this on these layers of different traumas,
I then was able. I was then able to heal it because I now could go. Oh, that makes sense. So then I would just, remove, 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 remove to get to the root. And so it was really like, okay, I'm no different. So I'm, everyone's magical beings. We all came here from somewhere, somehow. And, there are many, many, many magical people here that just simply just don't remember, or they're starting to remember. And I'm so super excited because I speak to people and I can hear them actually say that, they're starting to see things, they're starting to hear things. They just automatically know what they have to do because they're doing the work, which, they're healing. And it takes its time. You have to do it. So that's what I did.
okay. So you come into this body kind of brand new with all your previous life experience completely gone. You don't know about it, but what we'll say the previous occupants of the body did was they wrote an autobiography when they were
That's
like
correct.
at a very very young age, so that
Yep.
every single trauma that occurred was documented. I mean, what an incredible practice, actually.
It's not even so much documented. I don't know if I'll ever release the completed book. However, it's not so much it was documented. Her reason for it was she felt like she was going to die soon. That was number one. But number two, the other reason was I believe it was so then I understood what was going on. So I guess it was like my little manual of going, okay, this, and I could understand where she was coming from. But one of the things that I would say is that in the book it does say, why this happened, and she would explain why it happened to her, and she would heal in a different way, like how could I explain it more? Not so much on a soul level, if that makes any sense. So she didn't really go deep, deep down. It was more like, okay, we're going to heal this. And the best way I know how to is, yep, it's healed. I'm good. I'm strong. Let's keep going. So
Right.
I then had to go, okay, now it makes sense. So
Now, there is a value, though, for sure, in actually taking your emotional part of yourself and your creative part of yourself and connecting it to the motor function of your body. There is an alignment that does happen by writing things down, right? Just taking the time to say, and this is what I'm experiencing, because it forces you to think, right? So this actually activates the different parts of the brain that this video was talking about the other day, that is constantly being regulated and diminished by the reptilian cortex, right? That used to be that way. So, in an effort to heal these things, we still have memories, we still have traumas from this life and probably from previous lives that does exist there. And people have a tendency to hold on to traumas, right? This is why people are constantly talking about just my luck, right? It's my least favorite phrase that people use, right? Just my luck. This happened. Oh, great, right? And we want to constantly have this in our mind of these traumas. I can't, like, it always amazes me with people. Like, I think about this, and I love this experience. Laura and I talk about this a lot because there is an aspect there that she's new, like she's new, right? So, like, when you're talking to a kid, right? If an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old told you, look, Dad, this is just the way I am, right? It's the way I am. It's like, listen, you're 9. You don't know what you am. Okay. Like, you don't know what you are. You're 9 years old. What you are literally is an open book. It's a story you're going to write. It's a movie you're going to play out. It's an incredible creative journey that you're going to experience for the rest of your life. So as that child, your responsibility as a parent is to say, go pursue life with reckless abandon and figure out what you love, fall in love, be amazing, pursue excellence, fail triumphantly, don't worry about it, and just go, right? That's your job as a parent, to get your kid to go and live, because they don't know what they are. They don't know yet. And you don't even know, right? But you want them to find out, right? So I'm always fascinated with your experience because you learn faster than anyone I know, right? Like, I've literally watched Laura pick up a computer program and be like, oh, she doesn't know anything about coding. And next thing I know, she's literally coding and removing hackers from the system. And I'm like, how did you learn how to do that just now? Right.
But that's the thing. It's not so much that I learn. I connect with my creator, and I just go, okay, this is what we need to do. You want me to do this? I need your assistance. And then suddenly I see it. I know what to do, and it just appears, and I'm just like, okay, yeah. It's like, I don't know. Later on you can ask me, and I'll be like, I think you pressed that button. Oh, it's like, oh, but then when I need it, it will come. And when I don't need it, it's gone. So, but everyone has that capability. So everyone is able to do that. And so, I just think you just have to remember, you have to awaken it. You've got to, go through this. You have to do the journey. It's not just going to happen. Now that sorry, I'm going off topic maybe, but I'm just saying, now that we transferred to the light system, doesn't mean that it's going to be like, oh, wow, what is this? If you haven't done the work.
Unless it is.
Wait, no, it's not. Because if you haven't done let me explain first. If you haven't done the work and you still have these things that are affecting us, that you still have to have a human experience. You just have to. So now we just don't have interference. So it might be easier and quicker to do it.
Actually, what was said was, we don't have limits or regulators. So wait. So let me throw this at you. For anybody out there, right? Remember when you were a kid and you could just do stuff, right? Because you didn't know that you couldn't do stuff, right? I know there's people out there who know what I'm talking about, right? Like, there's things I did as a kid that I just didn't know I couldn't do, right? Like, I walked across a waterfall that was like 80 feet high, and I walked right across the top of it, right? With no thought that it was even a possibility that the water could sweep me down and kill me. Didn't even occur to me. Right?
What did you say? Because I heard you walked. So I'm like,
I walked across the top of a waterfall, right?
On top. Okay, got
Actually, I crawled up the face of the waterfall, and I led a whole crew of kids of similar age and younger on this little expedition where the police were called out to, like, get us and stuff, right? When I was a kid.
Wow, what a role model.
We went up, we went this whole, we were up on Seneca Lake. We explored up, and we crawled up the Faces waterfall, and we got everybody up there, and we were just kind of in this little adventure, right? And I didn't need to, we were just being kids. We were just on a little adventure. We didn't know we couldn't do that, right?
I know that's because you do not have South American parents, because I'm telling you right now, I walked out with my hair wet, and my father's telling me, you're going to die, get inside. So
okay.
You just don't know South American.
Listen, don't get me wrong. The parents blinked and we were gone, right? Like, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't intentional. We weren't trying to do anything bad. We were just being kids, right? Kids are naturally exploring their limits and bounds. It's how we are, right? So, I mean, you see this all the time. Until you know you can't do something, as a kid, you can do anything, right? I mean, I did lots of things I was rappelling when I was 5 years old down a 500-foot cliff because my parents were young. They were kids. My mom and dad were like 21 years old at the time, right? So they just took me rappelling because they're like, yeah, we're all going to do it together, right? So we just went and did that. So and I didn't know I couldn't do it. I wasn't scared of it. I hadn't ever experienced or seen consequences at that time. So until I was introduced to consequences of whatever action, I didn't know I couldn't do it. Now the reality is we probably can do a lot more, but what they've done is they've constantly, fanned us down with fear of you're going to die. This is going to happen. What if you get hurt, right? They actually talk about this with kids. Don't scold a child by saying you can't do that. You're going to get hurt. Don't say those things to a kid because you're literally manifesting it into existence, right? You don't want to say those things to a kid because you don't know what a kid can do. I mean, because think about it. You can watch kids that are 15 years old in the Olympics doing flips, in gymnastics that as an adult you can hardly conceive of trying to do because you think I'd break my neck, right? But when a kid does it, it's this incredible, powerful energy. And if you don't tell them they can't, right, you got to protect them, of course. But like you don't tell them they can't, it's amazing what can happen. So here's my point in saying that. What if now? What if now that we're not bogged down with the reptilian cortex, right? The lizard brain, right? The reptilian brain that we always talk about. We're not told, we don't have to be constantly reminded of you're going to get hurt. This is going to happen. You're so bad. Life is so scary. What if it's not? What
Well,
if we can just happen to it right now?
yes, I believe it's the case. I do. But, at the end of the day, we're not just talking to people that understand this. I'm hoping this can touch everyone and then they can start to learn to do it. And some people don't know what healing is. You would be surprised that they just don't know. How many people still believe in, certain things that we're like, wait, how do you still believe in it? So what I'm trying to say is that yes, some people are just going to get it like this because they've been doing the work. They've not even doing the work, but they've trusted their creator. And this has been a long journey for many people. Many people have done this many, many times as well and have come in this time for this magical time to change it. Has come into this magical time to change it. So I believe that it is possible to magically happen. It's here. But she did also explain about how, where is it? Sorry. She spoke about how it goes through the reptilian cortex and it brings it up, and then it brings it up in the subconscious. It's connected to the hippo. Oh, that's it. The neurocortex. Okay, so it's the long-term memory in the neurocortex of the brain, and so by doing all of these traumas and triggering it by coming up the reptilian cortex, it has the ability to bring it up and affect the long-term memory in the neurocortex of the brain and the hippocampus. And when we were talking about the hippocampus back in January, we actually researched a lot about it because we watched that video, and it explained how important the hippocampus is and when it shrinks, and how when your hippocampus shrinks, it's very okay.
Yeah. Why are you stopping?
Sorry. The hippocampus, when it shrinks, it causes a lot of issues in our body. But one of the main things that I saw was it affected how we manifest. So we have to, expand the hippocampus, and there's many things to do that. And once you do, it actually gives you the ability to manifest things into your reality. So I think right now our hippocampus has been affected for such a long time. I think we need to nourish it. And you know what? Sometimes if it's meant to be healed like that, and that's what you believe, it's going to be healed like that. That is possible. We've done it for many things, and I've seen many people do the same thing. So
this happened a while back. We came across this advertisement. Like we had some things that were not going altogether right. and I got in a car accident. Right, I got in this car accident, and it was a freak accident. Right, I just gotten back around Christmas time with my kids, and and I had been in with my family, and I had the for whatever reason had so much anxiety. I mean, I could hardly function. It was everything I could do to just stay present with my family. Everybody was around. I don't know why it happened. I never had it happen to me before. I haven't had it happen to me since. In general, I'm very effective at dealing with these things as they come in. But for whatever reason, I was having such anxiety. I felt like I was going to die. Right. And that feeling is horrible. Then we came back to home, and I got in a car accident. And Laura was like, kind of like angry, like, why didn't you protect him, God, right? And
yeah, I had hit my point of like enough. Like, we have done this for such a long time. I had my tantrum. I was like, what are you doing? You told me to do this. You told me to come here. You told me you would protect me. You told me you were going to protect him. What are you doing? Do your goddamn job. Like, I was angry. And I think it's okay to talk like that sometimes. Like, you're like, no, you got to get it out. If I can't get it out to my creator, then I would rather get it out to him than anyone else. So as I was doing that, I hear a voice tell me it was supposed to be worse. And that's when I breathed, and then you showed me the photos. And I was like, okay. And then the police officer, what he said as well. So
I totaled my car.
Yeah.
I totaled my car. I totaled my car. I didn't hit anyone. I didn't hit anything.
It was a freak accident for what they
I
said.
just turned the wheel, and literally the axle broke, and this whole thing. And I wasn't injured. Nobody was injured in the process, right? Now, but kind of a big deal because we had just moved, right?
Yeah.
Weren't really settled. Didn't have a way to get around in a place that I don't know anybody. But as this is happening, I'm standing in the middle of like one of those medians in the middle of the road. I look up right after it happens, and I swear to God, there was a ship that was there that literally, I looked up, I saw it was there long enough to show me it was there, and like literally went and then out. Right, that happened right in front of me as I got in this accident. So I thought, okay, obviously something's there protecting me, right?
Yeah.
And then, let's just say something was trying to hurt me, and I was protected. So we experienced that. Now, right after that, we came across some of these frequencies, right?
Wait, I was on TikTok, and then suddenly someone starts going, "Hey, you," and I'm like, "Me? Me?" I was like, "What is going on?"
What a sucker! Hey, you, me? Yes, you. If you're watching this, this will change your life. Oh my gosh!
It wasn't even like that. It was like, have you? I don't know. It was about this guy. He lost everything, and his car broke down, and I'm like, God's talking to me right now. And you were sleeping. And so I wake you up and you're like, babe, I'm just sleeping. And I was like, so I record it. So I screen recorded on my phone. And anyways, it resonated so much with what we were going through. And then what got me was he said that a NSA, so an ex-NSA person gave this to him, and they can never leak it, but he could. So he's now leaking it to everyone, and if you would like to buy it, blah, blah, blah. Sucker me, I went and did it. However, in his defense, I tried searching for it today so I could direct everyone to do it. It wasn't there. And he did say, get it before it's gone. So I did get both of them. So
now we have it. We're actually going to share it at some point, right? Like, let people.
I'm going to try to see if I can
test
reach
it
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
I want to reach out.
I don't want people to think that we're peddling NSA stuff. Like, just to be clear, we're not. It was just an interesting coincidence. So.
No. It was because he explained it. He broke it down on what they do. And we all know what they do. They have these how could they get to where they were? Because they had all these tools and knowledge, and they were blasted with things to make them feel better, and they just hid it from us why they were getting it. So in that aspect, he apparently gave it to this gentleman, said this will change your life. And the reason why I'm like, I don't know, I don't want to give it out, because I don't want to take it away from them. So I want to find them, hopefully, fingers crossed. And if I can't, then it was meant to be, because it was insane. Because then after that, our life really did start changing. And we started seeing things just go away. Granted, United Network had a new face, which was great, which the energy changed. So it was able to, the energy changed, and we were able to really hear and watch these amazing things that they're doing right now. So after that split, Kim was saying all these things, and that allowed us, we used it as like a course. Like we would go through it and go, okay, does this resonate with us? And if it did, we would use it. And if it didn't, we would leave it. Take what you need and leave the rest. And I use that. We both use that for everything in our life, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What was that?
So I lost my train of thought.
So, anyways, so basically, we started using it. It was like we picked up a frequency. We picked up this frequency, and we started using this frequency. Like now, don't get me wrong, we use frequencies all the time. We're always playing a frequency, using a frequency, sleeping with a frequency. Just have a frequency in the background, like trying our best to find frequencies that are effective, because you don't know what they're adding to the frequencies. So finding frequencies that are legit can be a challenge to make sure. So we've actually done this with the Life Force Network, where we've gathered frequencies and checked to make sure they're vibrating at the frequency they say they are, because you can't trust everything on YouTube, to be honest. Not to say people are necessarily doing something wrong, but there's people interfering.
And sometimes people don't know. That's the other thing.
But anyway, so we're always using frequency. But anyways, we tapped into this one frequency, and it was, but it specifically talked about increasing the size of the hippocampus, right? Which is something that Kim was kind of talking about in this whole experience, right? Because this is the big reveal that Kim was talking about, is the direct current, right? That is the big thing that she was talking about, is that you have alternating current and direct current, right? And this is a big controversy, actually, in the kind of world of electricity, let's say, right? The world of power, because everything has an electrical charge. Everything has an everybody has this electrical charge, whether it's even food has electrical charge. Everything has electrical charge. So, and this was a big thing with like Edison and Tesla, right? Like, Tesla wanted to bring out, I always thought it was the opposite, actually. I always thought Tesla was bringing out alternating current, like the currencies of energy going one way and then like coming in and leaving. And I thought it was that way. And then I always thought direct current was damaging, right? It would devour. That's what I always thought. But the way that Kim described it, because like we have like DC batteries, it's direct current, right? It's like you have a battery and you're draining that battery. That's direct current.
Mm-hmm.
But what Kim was talking about is that everything in the system has now been changed over to a direct currency. So all of this direct current, right? So all of the currency, the energetic frequencies, right, that would come in an alternating current system, you would have something positive, which is your life force generating this, right? And it would be interfered with and kind of held. So you never got the full scope of your own life force energy, right? You never got to have the full benefit, because they would come in with doubt and fear and anxiety, and they would trip it up and constantly balance that. So you wouldn't be falling apart, but like you'd be just productive enough to be a good battery for them, right? And that's energy from God. So much so that she actually talked about God or source being surrounded by a light prism where they were capturing the energy directly from source at some point. It's pretty amazing stuff when you think about it that way. That we could be blocked from God, right? Which kind of explains like when people would pray. Like I know a lot of people know this. Like when you would pray and it felt like you were just praying to the air, right? Like to a God outside of yourself, something in the ether, hoping that some miracle would happen, right? That's very different than having an awareness and a consciousness of God in you and knowing that God's in you and it's a direct oneness with God where you're calling on the energy. Now, this is what Jesus said, by the way. This is in the scriptures, right? Great is the mystery of righteousness. God manifest in the flesh, right? That's an incredible scripture. And it wasn't just one person's flesh; it's in everyone's flesh, right? Because this is what he was telling his disciples the whole time, right? People always like kind of mistake the scriptures to be like as if Jesus was walking around saying, "Worship me, bow down," but he wasn't, right? Even before he got up on the cross, he said, "Look, from this day forward, we're friends. You're my friends." It's pretty simple, right? Friends are equals. He said, "You're my friends." He goes, "As long as you love one another." So basically, he's saying like, "You're my friend as long as you're friends." Right? Show that love to one another, pay that love forward, and do that with one another consistently and constantly. Right? That's all he required. Right? So I just love the simplicity of the scriptures with that. Right? Because people don't talk about that enough. I don't think because people make it about the dogma that they've created, which isn't really there. But anyways, so this is the kind of journey that we talk about that the character like Jesus, like the Messiah, Joshua, Emmanuel, Sananda, all talking about the same person, right? And you could actually go back to the scriptures and say, well, you also had Joshua, the son of Nun, which would be Yahshua, the son of Nun, who kind of was a downplayed character. He did the same thing that Jesus did, right? So there's a theme that happens repeatedly where God shows up in a more concentrated state in the flesh. And the way he described it is he told the disciples, look, now think about it. He's been walking around healing the blind, making the cripples walk, healing lepers, turning water into wine. I mean, that's pretty awesome. All by itself, right? Now imagine, and before he goes, he says, look, greater things than this. You are going to do greater things than this. The question I always ask myself is like, okay, if that's true, how many of us ask ourselves, am I doing greater things than healing the blind? Am I doing greater things than healing lepers and making cripples walk? Am I doing greater things than that? Am I then turning water into wine? I'm not sure exactly why water into wine is so great, but like still cool. It's amazing. I'm sure there's a value to it that I'm missing, by the way. Right? There's something spiritual about it. But my point is this is the power of like kind of this one figure that many religions recognize as God in the body. And he was talking to people, walking around telling them, you are more. You're more than you think. And if anybody, I feel, please, anyone can challenge me on this. I would love to have a good challenging conversation with somebody who says that's not true. Like, good luck, bring it, right? Because I'm telling you, you go through the scriptures that Jesus, walked through the scriptures, and I don't care what version you use either. I don't care no matter what version, no matter what history you use, he's talking to them about who they are, who God is, and what that means to recognize that God is in you, right? So now I see that what Kim is doing right now, it's a similar message, right? I mean, and I've had a similar message myself. That's exactly how I feel. That's why I'm saying, why can't it just be easy? It can be.
Can be.
You have thousands of functions that happen in your body every single day
Yep.
that you have absolutely no control over. Just by taking a breath, 100 different chemicals are exchanged in your body just by taking a breath. But would anybody say like, "Oh my gosh, breathing is such a burden"? Like, no, of course not. breathing isn't a burden. It's not hard. You don't have to do deep spiritual shadow work to breathe. You just breathe, right? So what if, because Jesus also said this, I said all that to say this, right? I know I'm long winded. I get in trouble for it, but I said all that to say this. Jesus told people, right? And this is what happened. I have to give context to these stories. What it was an infant. It was a baby. A baby was crying, right? And the disciples were like, get the baby out of here because he's distracting from the message of the Messiah, right? Because they were like, we are the protectors of the message, right? And they were doing their best to protect the message of the Messiah. And the baby was crying and was distracting people. So they said, take the baby out of here, right? But they say, take the child out of here. So the disciples then asked, well, who will be the greatest in the kingdom? Who will be the greatest in the kingdom? So Jesus' response is, bring the child back, right? Like bring that baby back. And then he says, unless you are likened unto this little child, you have no place with me, right? Now, let's talk about an infant. An infant learns 30 to 100 times faster than an adult. They just absorb information. They learn new words nonstop. They learn so fast. If we learn that fast till now, which we can, we'd be far superior in our intelligence, right? Not only that, but the brain, now think about it, because this is exactly what Kim was talking about. We're going to get rid of the reptilian brain. The hemispheres of their brain have not been divided yet. They're one. So their logical mind and their creative mind, their action, all of that is one. So this is how powerful an infant is, right? They don't know much yet, right? They don't know what's out there yet. Here's what they know. When they're hungry, they thirst, they want breast milk, right? They know that innately. So they cry. They cry out for breast milk. This is how powerful they are. I watched this happen with my own eyes. I watched women start to lactate through their shirts. A woman will start to lactate 10 miles away from their baby because their baby is at home crying. She can't hear him, but the baby's so powerful, and the mother's body, because that's its origin, responds. That's how powerful that infant is, that it can make the mother lactate 10 miles away. That's incredible, right? People don't talk about that's incredible. They've also done this with heart cells that they've cut out. Like when someone's having a heart attack or someone goes in, they don't know what's wrong. They cut cells out of the heart and they fly them in a helicopter somewhere else. They fly the cells from that heart to a helicopter somewhere else and to examine it. And the heart cells 30 miles away at a different facility, when the individual who's still in possession of the heart has a heart attack, the cells 30 miles away have a heart attack.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't know that. Wow.
They respond. This is the incredible phenomenon, which is quantum reality. That we could be in different places and in the same place at the same time. And this is why Jesus said, if you have the mind likened unto a child doesn't see themselves as separate from God or their mother. They don't see themselves that way. So what if this whole thing is just really showing us, look, you're not separated from God. You're not separated from source, right? That's what's in you. That powerful reality is in you. Now, I feel like I can tap into that. I feel like that I can get over myself and be like, let me let go of my traumas, my dramas, my issues, my fears, my anxiety. I feel like, let me just let go of that and be like, can I embrace that?
Yes.
That I'm my Father's son, right? That I'm one with God, that God's in me, that everything I have. And this is what I think is amazing about it, right? Okay, because think about this. Because God knew, he had to know. it's going to get hard, right? Like you said, we got to do our shadow work. We got to do all this work, right? And I'm not trying to be critical. What you're saying is true. You should take the time to actually examine yourself.
I think it's like I said, I think it's healing. I think there's different aspects of healing. It could be sometimes, like you said, writing it down. Some people can't do that. There's all different ways of healing. Even to the point of the other day when you did say to me, "What if this was preparing you for this time now? You don't have to heal anything." Because I'm a practitioner and what I've been taught, it's like, hey, let's figure it out. Where is this coming from? Let's get down to business. And you're like trying to be Inspector Gadget with your client. That's what I do. So then when you gave me a different perspective and you said, what if this was happening now? So what if what happened to you before, it's not that it's happening again, it's something that you have to learn. Maybe it's that you have to accept it and be like, you didn't die, you're okay, and to prepare you for this time. And you'll just know how to handle it. And once I started understanding that that was a possibility, I was like, oh, that makes sense now. So therefore, when things came along, instead of me now saying, do I need to heal it? I will still ask myself those questions because I have a responsibility within myself to do that. And also to not contaminate anyone's energy around me. It's my responsibility to make sure I'm clear and ready and I'm okay. Things are going to happen. But that's why I say, what is it? Is it healing? Is it this? You've got to figure it out. If it's affecting you, you have to see why. It could be something like that, or it could be something that you've got to really dig deep down. But what I have noticed is something that before would take me 2 weeks to come down to the answer of going, I now get it. It'll take me a couple of minutes or no more than 2 hours. And I'm like, oh, it makes sense now. And that's where I think it's because we are, allowing and accepting that connection with our creator and allowing it to flow through us. Because sometimes if we don't feel like that energy is flowing, it's most likely because there's something there. Figure it out. It could be 1,000 things, which you just have to figure it out. But once it's flowing and things will come out, but you'll just know how to fix it. That's what I'm trying to say. You've got to get to the flow. And once you get there, we'll start to see things manifest like that. And we've seen it. And we've spoken to many people that are feeling the energies be very different now. So that's what I'm saying. Is it possible? 100%. But it's up to the person. It's their choice.
Absolutely. So, mind like a child, right? This is really, Kim talked about this. This is the incredible assist given to us right now, right? That this entire, I'm telling you, yesterday's show was, I talked to somebody today and they said that was Gangster Kim. She was like, let me tell you something. Let me tell you what we had to do to get to this point. All of these blocks, energetic matrices, all of these ways that you siphoned our energy, every deal that you were offered, everything the deep state was, every opportunity these idiots were given to do the right thing. And they were like, we're going it alone. They thought they were so powerful. They thought they were so much better than us. Imagine that all the blocks, all these ways that you held someone down, all the ways that you abused someone, all the ways that you denied someone their own authority, their own history, their own power, the origin of where they come from, the essence of who they are, the frequency of eternal life that exists in every single person, right? That's an incredible power that so few people really know is who they are, right? So now here's the thing, right? Like now here's where I can really appreciate the Messiah, because the frustration would be after everything he'd done, right? There's this one scripture, and I'm just referencing. You could probably reference this in any religion. I have referenced many different religions. I'm just referencing the Bible because that's what I am most familiar with, right? So, but there's this, and plus we watch Chosen, which we love the show Chosen. It's so good. But there's the great way that they bring these things to life. I just love that show.
So,
Yeah. Well, and not always exactly right, but still really cool, right? Like the closest I've ever seen. But anyway, so there's this moment that's coming later in the scriptures, right, where Jesus's friend Lazarus dies. Right, he dies, and it's Lazarus from his, and they call out to Jesus, and he's like, "Okay, we'll go in a few days." Right, so he shows up like 3 days later, where he's already been wrapped in like the death shroud and whatever to cover up the stench of. And they show up, and they're so mad at him, like, "Why didn't you come sooner? You could have healed him." Right, all this stuff is how the scriptures say it, right? Like, "Oh, you could have healed him, you could have done this," and he's like, so the scripture, the famous scripture is Jesus wept, he cried. And the reason why he cried is because after everything he'd done, they still didn't believe who he was, right? They didn't believe, like, don't you see I'm life? And I think the reality is, and so are you. This is who you are, right? I can just bring him back to life like that. So then what does he say? He goes, Lazarus, come forth. That's all he says. And Lazarus gets up and he's alive again, right? So it's a really powerful moment of this connection of spiritual life that exists in all of us, in the life that's in us. It's a choice we made at some point to be in these bodies, to exist here, and we're living out this witness, this expression of source, of God, of whatever, right? And I know I'm putting this in simplistic terms, but it makes sense to me. And I guess I'm simple, right? But the beauty of this is of where we're at right now. I've had this, really, I've been fascinated by this reptilian cortex thing, kind of in the middle, interfering with everything. Is as you believe, as you have faith, right? Absolute faith, you're blocked by absolute fear. Where you have love, you have condemnation, right? Like, imagine being able to love completely unencumbered or uninhibited by anything, what that looks and feels like. To be completely absolute, because I use this example, I know it's corny, but I just look, people will kvetch and bitch and moan about things all the time about, oh, this is so hard. I can't believe this. This sucks. Like, this part of my life is so hard. I hate my job. I hate this. Do you know you don't ever hear people complain about being in love? No one is ever like, oh, I'm so in love. I'm so happy. I, you know, I think about this person all day long, and every part of it makes me happy. No one does that. No one ever does it. Being in love is so effortless that even when you're not with the person, you just are naturally thinking about them. Being in love is so effortless, you don't even have to try. You can't help it, right? Being in love is so effortless, it gives you energy, right? And it doesn't just apply to relationships like with, like a spouse or a significant other. It applies to your kids. You can be in love with your kids or your nieces or nephews. You're so in love with them. You don't have to do it. Like, you're so happy that you have them. You're so happy they exist. It's an energy that's constantly fueling you all the time, where you're just like, that's what it's like to live in love. Now, the example, like, people have one, like, a romantic connotation with it, but imagine living in a state of being love. That's what your natural state is. I can prove it. I can prove it. You were created because two people came together and they made love. That's you. They made you. Your love, right? So that's what our natural state is love. So I know there's this perception, like, we need to be practical, we need to be this, we need to be worried. Think about, people actually think worry is love, right? So they worry about the people they love. Like, no, what if love is just love? And it's manifested in a million different ways, and all you're doing is constantly exploring the beauty of love, and you can spend a billion lifetimes trying to understand what that means, and all it's going to do is bring you more joy, more love, more happiness, more peace, because as you explore what it means to be in love, to be an expression of love, the more love you'll create. Now, what if this thing that Kim's talking about, it just removes the block?
No ears from your mouth to God's ears, because I hope it's like that for everyone. I do. I really do hope. And you know what? Why not? Like you just said, what if? Maybe we are the ones that need to say, no, it will happen. It will just happen. Maybe you're right there. Perhaps you're right there.
No, you make a good point though, and so have you, is that it's not going to be that way for everybody.
Look,
Right.
do I want, yesterday the whole world to be different and that everyone's happy and every single child is just, they have food, clothing, house, and that we're all good and that they're no longer affecting us and that we can actually do things on our own and actually, start. I believe restoration has started, but like really start restoration. I'm excited for that. I am, I hope it happens now. I just, in my opinion, I do feel like there are things that are put in place. The program is there. This is what I see. What I see is it's in place. It is up to you, the individual, to just grab it and pull it to your heart. And that's it. But you have to, it's your free choice. You have to grab it and say, I accept this, whatever it is. We were talking about this the other day. We were saying that what if this, like the whole thing with the light system, it changes and then suddenly people are quitting their jobs and saying, I have to do this. Why? I just know I have to and we continue doing it. And then suddenly it's this major project that's bringing them lots of income. They don't have to think about anything else and everything's going their way. So exciting. It could possibly be like that, but it's that person that actually took a chance on themselves and actually said, I'm going to trust my creator. I'm going to trust myself. And I feel like that's really, it's very powerful as well there too. So we can't just assume the light system's on. It's like a light. Yeah, the light's on. You got to walk through the door. If you don't walk through the door, the light's always going to be on. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, I think it's a good point, and I'm really excited about what this means. The entire global financial system, right, has been shifted over, and so for people who don't know how this worked before, didn't work before, the whole fiat system. The reason why everybody kind of hated it is what would happen is you'd have an asset, and then you'd be given a credit for the asset. That was the asset redemption system. You registered an asset, then you get a credit for those assets, which would come out as allocation numbers. And then what would happen is it would basically you'd get this credit, and that would be the currency system, but you never actually have the asset. You never actually have the life force energy that was used to create it. You would never have access to the real currency. But now, the way the system is structured, the way that I understand it, is now your direct current from source to you. And that applies to all of your energy, but it also includes currency and whatever you need or desire, I guess, to create, that you can now very powerfully command your body. And oh my gosh, it was a really great explanation Kim talked about how she was able to use the adrenaline in her body and use it in different parts of her brain to bring about the results that she wanted in her body to respond the way she needed to when she needed to. So when she needed strength, she was able to get it. When she was able to needed to be calm, she was able to do that. And using the same basic system. And she was able to do that since she was younger, because she was dealing with her own anxiety. Now, all of us are living in this state of anxiety, of constant fear. They're constantly trying to keep us in fight or flight. It's our job to say, okay, I can control this. I'm the one that can move this. And if that applies to our bodies and our energy, well, it might very well apply to the actual tangible currency as well. It might be our responsibility to match that vibration and frequency right within ourselves to be able to bring in whatever money however you want to say money, currency that we need to accomplish whatever project, goal, vision that we have. And it might just require us to allow ourselves to dream bigger, to think bigger, to imagine the possibilities on a broader scale, to allow yourself to be this imagineer of a world that is better. And in so doing, That's how we create it, right? That's how it actually comes to life. And now, because all these blocks and things that we didn't know existed, but we always kind of feared because we were programmed to fear, are gone. What's life like when you're not afraid? What's it like to live life without being scared, without being terrified, without being anxious? What's life like then? I mean, to me, that feels like, anything's possible.
Mm.
So that's what I was thinking.
Well, Mr. Rao, I think we've come up to time, and we'll be having our after show. Is that correct?
Yeah, after hours, we'll be doing a little Q&A, hang out for a little bit. We're going to keep it short tonight. We're going to do our very best. A lot, if people come on, they want to ask questions, they're more than welcome. And please share the show. The live link goes up on our Telegram. Put it out there, and bring everybody together around the same ideas, and help us get better. And we'll do our best to help you get better the same way. So, thank you for everybody coming out. Anything else?
9:30. Yes. We're posting it on the chat. We'll post the Zoom link on the chat, and it's at 9:30. And then you can close off, Mr. Rao. Thank you, everyone.
Be there or be square. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us for a little bit. We appreciate it. And my name is Stephen Rao, and Laura just left. But this is the Life Force Network. Let's go change the world.